Guys, welcome back. How's it going? So, civilization restarts again. This time we're actually gonna begin in the Mughal Empire. We're getting straight into this time. No cheesy intros, hopefully. All right. Few things while I'm erasing this border. So yeah, basically, if you don't remember, last video the Mughal Empire took over Berat, and they didn't want to annex it outright, so they annexed it and then made a bunch. They annexed a bunch of it and then made the rest semi-autonomous province, kind of like Carthage and the Red Team. But how this is gonna work was they were gonna eventually annex it. So yeah, today they're going to be annexing it. Anyways, while we're doing that, I will give some announcements. So the Civilization Restart series, 16th episode, we're approaching episode 20. Somehow the series is still doing relatively well. And like and subscribe. Also, are you guys still enjoying Fortnite videos? Check that out. Check out the Fortnite vid. Link in the description down below. Alright, let's go. So, now that they've added that, protests everywhere. There's going to be a lot of protests. They're not getting by that. There's always going to be protests in there specifically. Second, we have these guys getting a change of government in a very, very bad way. A huge now this is like in our world, you know how there were like democratic springs of revolution and like what Napoleon did and all that. We're approaching that time period. Like that time period did occur very late in this because like the year right now is probably like around 1900s since humanity first developed a civilization. So I think we might actually be earlier than Napoleon's time period. Either way, the Civil War begins around here and over here and mostly in the south is going to be like the big civilization rebels. So now this isn't actually a rebellion. This is actually a revolution to replace the old government with a new government. And very quickly, the Red Team and the Kievan Rus begin supporting this rebellion. Sweden, who actually strikes, or not Sweden, the Nordic Union strikes a deal with these rebels and just outright declares war, bombarding, sieging, and eventually conquering the capital of the Yellow Team alongside their coastline. Now this deal is loyalty and trading agreements, as well as like a formal trade alliance to blockade the Kievan Rus, and lastly, some like exploration rights and fishing rights in the EEZ of the Yellow Team. I know there's no UN thing in here yet saying the EEZ exists, but like people are still making control over the waters. So yeah, the kingdom gets that. The Nordic Union gets that. The Red Team also intervenes on behalf of the rebellions, but eventually, after the people are like, "Oh hell no, we've been in enough wars," they leave. However, not before giving the bomb, catapulting and destroying all the important buildings in the area, leading to the region's collapse into the hands of the rebellion. Now, taking a look at this, the rebellion is actually doing extremely well. They eventually do conquer this stuff, which means they're now probably going to win. They are definitely going to win. Foreshadowing. Any sane human being can look at this and think that the rebels are definitely going to win. Joke's on you, they're not. No, I'm kidding. They are going to win. I'm sorry. They're going to win. No, there's no one in the video viewing right now that thought that the rebels were going to lose. I mean, maybe if you thought I was going to pull a trick, but no. That's the only way you're excused, if you thought I was going to pull a trick. Okay, so the rebels' main base does just get put inside of like the south, right there, because they want to be kind of close to the Red Team ally. Actually, that's their base right now. If they are to win this, which they are, they're probably gonna keep the capital where it was, just because symbolism, and also it's close to the Nordic Union, which is a better ally than the Red Team. So with this, the de facto capital, which was right there, which is why there was like that little hole in the Nordic Union's front, is destroyed. And from here, the Nordic Union stops trying to continue fighting and just lock down, letting the rebels do the rest. And after getting this far in, the rebels are unable to make any more progress. Here's where everything changes. The Kievan Rus finally sick of the Red Team, declares war on the rebels, and the Yellow Team sort of launching a huge occupation of the Yellow Team and trying to put an end to the rebels and the Red Team's influence within the world. And this does do very well. They get like this far. And this lasts a long time. Eventually, the Lithuanians sign an agreement letting the Kievan Rus push through Lithuania, or the Latvian-Lithuanian Union, and eventually they do quite well and push the rebels out to here. From here, the rebel base is destroyed, but so is like the Yellow Teams. And as rebel troops are running, they do like destroy the east completely as they're running from warfare, eventually destroying the Yellow Team. With this, somewhat peace treaty, I guess, somewhat peace treaty. So one, the Union definitely did, or the rebels did win. If it wasn't for the Kievan Rus, they would have completely dominated. The Kievan Rus, however, now proclaims this country as an independent state. Now, this state is not recognized by the Red Team nor the Nordic Union, but it is recognized by the Kievan Rus, and that's the only country that recognizes it. And then, of course, the Yellow Team does get their new government installed. So the Kievan Rus is probably going to annex that alongside Lithuania. They're probably going to annex Lithuania as well. Their current plans for Lithuania is to make it look somewhat like this, like reduce it to that and then annex the rest alongside that country, and well, Lithuania itself. They also want Flipperland gone, but that's not happening because Flipperland has plot armor. Speaking of Flipperland, the Flipperlands, they remember, like really early on when they first started existing, I said that their country isn't perfect place for Arctic colonization. Guess who just did some Arctic colonization? We have a new country in the Americas, and that is Flipperland. Meanwhile, the Kevin Roos and Red Team already had tensions going on in this area, and neither government cared about that area. The tensions are at an all-time high between these two areas. Not an all-time high between the Red Team and the Kevin Roos, but these two colonies specifically. Why? Well, not only does the news of that war get back, the Kievan Rus also expand even more, and the Red Team responds to this by also expanding, however, not as much. Now, the reason this makes tensions even higher is because the Red Team views the Kievan Rus as a corruption inside of the Americas. The Kievan Rus views the Red Team as like a germ that is burning the land that they could have gotten, but now they can't get anymore because the germ, or the Red Team, burnt the land down. Of course, the Red Team isn't actually burning any of this land. That's just their view, because now the land, from their view, is infected and destroyed and impure. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Manifest destiny at its fullest. Let's see. So now these tensions are going to lead to a good old British interference. The British Republic colonizes this land. Now that's not actually. Hold up. Wait. They leave this area because they're going to sponsor a state in there. Yeah, they're gonna sponsor another state, just like the Red Team. They're sponsoring a state as well. Now, one sec. So basically, they go here, and then Kevin Roos traders are going along the Silk Road that's like connects the east coast to the west coast, and they stumble over here. They get a little off track. They stumble over there, and they're hungry. They're deprived of food, and the United or the British Republic, they have a few soldiers monitoring that specific border because very aggressive neighbors and natives. So the natives, yeah, they're especially aggressive towards the actually not the natives, just like the natives of the Americas. They're especially aggressive towards towards the British in particular because the British is the largest colonial power in Africa. On Asia, they're probably like mostly aggressive to the blue team. They're aggressive to everyone in Asia, but mostly to the blue team. Okay, so yeah, the British, they take them in with open arms. And one of these guys is actually a really high-ranking member of like the Kievan Rus' diplomatic relations and signs a pact with these guys. With this, the British are alarmed of this colony, and they do kind of want to take that Red Team possession. And knowing the Red Team basically doesn't even know if that colony exists or not anymore, and they have absolutely no reason, clue, or even any like compelling offer to go see if that colony is still alive, they probably wouldn't even notice if the British just outright stole that. Because why would they care? They don't care. They currently don't care about the Americas. They care a little bit more about the blue team, first of all, South America, second of all, this no man's land in Africa, which is about to become a huge country. Well, it's not that big, but it's huge in terms of population because a bunch of natives are like, since this country isn't like, it is an African nation, but it's not like for the betterment of the natives. It is for the betterment of its king. So a lot of refugees are going there and there from there as well. And then a red team high like terrorist? No, not terrorist. No. A red team like one of the rebel leaders, one of the big rebel leaders, actually took a boat into Africa, and then flew into this no man's land. Not flew, walked, refugied himself into that no man's land, and was probably accepted by the natives, I assume. Could have just gone there, but no, that one's one Sahara Desert, also two Libyan catapults, not treating that area well. So the Red Team kind of wants the death of that place, or at least for it to proclaim itself as a country, so the Red Team could full on invade and completely destroy that nation. That's not going to happen yet. So with this, we actually go back to the British Republic, and they're going to sponsor a new state there. This state is going to be this color. They're going to be this color. Paste that in. Okay, that doesn't even look that bad. This is a puppet state, much like this one. Meanwhile, the red team, they make a very small gain right there. Now, this gain has no purpose except for one, making the British more mad. Two, not getting completely blocked off from like Canadian soil. Then also over here, Florida and the red team both expand. Or no, this isn't the Florida. This is the Umayyad Caliphate, isn't there? Yeah, it is. They both expand. One more than the other. That one that did it more is obviously the red team. Now, they actually signed a treaty. One, the red team, this line, this point right here, continues on this way forever. Like, here, if I make a line, this line, the red team cannot go below. That cuts them off of Mexico, or the Aztec Republic, and Mexican soil, which they don't like. However, they really also don't want a war right now, because they already have a lot of enemies. They do, in turn, though, just for the ratifying of the agreement, annex that piece of land, mostly because it had a bunch of um, red team members of the major like rebel party of France hiding there because they thought the Umayyads would protect them. No, the Umayyads just handed over the entire piece of land. That did not go very well. This also is a huge blow to the French province of the red team, which does mean that France, one, now wants to rebel even more. Two, is on the verge of getting its Napoleon stage, but in this timeline. And three is also a major setback for negotiations on the future of the French province, because now the red team officials are like, "Hey, yo, we just found a guy trying to be bad here. Why? Nuh-uh. All right." So with this, we actually have the red team making a little bit of more gains in Africa. This time, right there, They're gonna conquer that piece of land. Again, they once again only did this to kill a few rebel leaders. This time from Carthage. Yeah, the red team's crackdown on this is insane. Now something happens now. The red team's king, like always, dies. Except he doesn't really. Basically, his son, the prince, basically just went ahead and proclaimed his father's death and proclaimed himself as the new leader. Here's where this gets bad. So yeah, he proclaimed himself as the new leader. Probably would have been over with. However, no one likes him. They liked his father. His father was one of the most popular people. And he actually sent his father to a trip into the purple team as a getaway vacation while he took like control until his father came, and his father was okay with that. But then his father came back and he had a heart attack. The son did nothing. The son did not cause this heart attack. It just happened. Now, while this assuming of power was happening, the son is actually the younger child because the brother was in Persia doing some diplomatic stuff. The brother, hearing the death of his father, returns. Except since the youngest child was assuming leadership, the youngest child proclaims himself as the leader and basically like exiles his brother into Persia, and he's like, I'm the king because my father told me I'm the king, and then the brother's like, that was only for when he was there. So, with a civil war. And so, now that we have covered how the civil war started, let's actually show what happened in the civil war. So, obviously, since he's in Persia, his conquest begins from Persia. Well, most of his like loyal troops are still in Persia, but they're making their way, so he needs to grab that. Now, the red team's biggest like Red Sea port is in Qatar. So very quickly, Qatar is captured. Now, Qatari rebels, which, if we remember, were the main players of the civil war that happened before this one in the last episode, um, they actually have a deal made with the brother, and this deal is that the brother will give them semi-autonomy in exchange for their support in the civil war. Now, up here, he manages to give the French on board, as most of the French people don't really like this the younger child or the old king for that matter, and so the French are very quick to dig up some trenches and lock in on battle. They quickly capture most of Catalonia and then do begin moving in onto Italy. However, that is stopped almost immediately. Eventually, the French are pushed back all the way to France, or the French province itself, with only a bit of their troops on the outskirts of the province making some progress. But either way, the province itself is majorly liberated, except for a small settlement of veterans that continue to support the king's the younger child. Eventually, those veterans are defeated. Back over in Sicily, the island fully collapses into the control of the brother. Or the older brother, and the older brother's army is able to move into the boot of Italy. Now, there's 3 cities being targeted. Of course, the capital over there, which we will call Salusalem, not Jerusalem, Salusalem. That name's definitely getting changed, but that city right there, the Rome, which is the biggest like Mediterranean port, and Gibraltar, or not Gibraltar, Gibraltar. But in our timeline, Gibraltar is located right there. Then also there after the Carthaginian capital right there. So 4 cities. Well, no, 3 cities, and then some other cities that they would like to conquer is the Carthaginian capital right there, the that island because it has a lot of military stuff, Crimea because it's a show of power of the red team, and the Suez. Now, the Suez Canal actually would be one of the main targets in our world if this happened, but there's not that much traffic through the Suez. There's more traffic through this strait, the Bosphorus, which Istanbul is also another one they would like to conquer. Anyways, back to the thing. So very quickly, they do meet their goal of conquering the Carthaginian capital, as Carthage, the probably strongest African region aside from the Suez and the Sinai Peninsula of the Red Team, begins to fall. And this is very symbolic, as most Carthaginians support the brother, who's basically like you. So like my younger or the old they support the older brother, who's like, yo, my younger brother is not gonna be a good king. I'm gonna be a better king. And proof of this is our father selected him. And since the old king was mostly hated by Carthage because he was the one who took away their autonomy when he defeated them in the civil war, most Carthaginians are on board. But the more you go towards the Red Team capital, the more loyal the people get. So the advance is mostly stopped. Back over here in I think this is New Brunswick or Prince Edward Island. I don't know, but the island joins in support of the brother, and the military on the island takes complete control of the island, eventually recovering the island from the control of that guy. Again, these 2 colonies stay untouched from everything in the world. That one, the British do actually take this moment to invade and occupy that colony. So they just go ahead and occupy that. Not a full-on war; it's an occupation. They haven't actually said war. So the like modern day 13 colonies and the East Coast and Ottawa and Toronto land is mostly untouched by the Civil War. However, back over here, the world is collapsing. Very quickly, a new Moroccan foundation, in exchange for their semi-autonomy back from the loss in the First Civil War, joins on the side of course, the older brother, and this leads to the eventual cornering of Gibraltar. However, not its collapse, not yet. This is also going to be the last war of the video, so yes. After getting over here, they do also make a landing into Greece, and now this is where the front slows down. Eventually, this island is captured, which leads to the military technologies. Some of them are released to the public, just to like the ones that they think are inhumane and would probably frame the younger brother in a bad way are given over and are given to the public, and that actually leads to the island of Cyprus to rebel, which is probably like the most secluded region of the empire of the Red Team's empire, aside from all the holdings in America, in the Americas. Actually, no. I think African holding down here is probably speaking of the African holding down there. It has basically the strongest squadrons in the entire military. So like the British, no one did. So like unlike the British, no one's going to go ahead and occupy this region in the chaos because that's not going to go well. That's just going to be a death trap. And meanwhile, an old heritage site of the blue team is occupied by the blue team, which was like over here in modern day North Yemen, I guess. Now, this heritage site is the one thing that both brothers agree on should never be returned to the blue team because it's like a symbol of power over the blue team by the red team that they own the blue team's heritage site. However, the older brother, who does have more control over the Middle Eastern, Saudi Arabia, Yemen regions of this empire, does basically just go ahead and say, "Peace out fast. Let's begin peace negotiations," or that land's going over to the blue team. This does make him lose a lot of support, leading to quite the pushback in Greece, which is eventually recovered. However, what is not recovered is this little thing getting destroyed and Gibraltar, once again, connected. However, the French, their trench warfare comes in clutch, and they're actually able to break through, splitting off Spain. Now, with this, most of the older brothers' reinforcements are now being redirected to France, as if they can get Gibraltar, they can get international support, because they can threaten blockading the strait. Now, this is a risky play, because if they threaten blockading the strait, there's two ways this can go. Either the Kievan Rus intervene, and they recognize the older brother because they want to demise the red team, and they did not like the king. And right now, most of the old king, and right now most of the international view is the old king chose the younger brother, and the older brother is like a vengeance fighter, a freedom fighter, perhaps. So they'd either like help him in that, also fearing for world trade, or it can go the other way, where the British launch since because the Carthaginians and the British trade a lot alongside the Byzantine, launch a full manifest destiny type conquest of the 13 colonies land in response to this, and that's not really good because most of the people over here are neutral, and that would give him a bad side. Eventually, though, he realizes that for now he'll just occupy the land and does a really that actually like goes ahead, takes a boat, crashes it into here, and gives a really good speech, which leads to this land getting recovered. With this, we have a landing being made on Spain, and now comes the hard part. What is he going to do with the Strait of Gibraltar? Now, this man pulls the most risky move ever. The strait is completely shut down for the entire duration of the war. This could go two ways, and here's the way I will tell which way it went while showing the conquest. But this could go two ways. One, everyone supports the younger brother and kind of just outcasts the older brother because blockading of the Strait of Gibraltar. In which case, it would be the older brother. Yes, he would be starving all of the red team because he would have control over the Gibraltar Strait, which is a huge thing for most of Mediterranean red team to get food from. Or, but he'd probably be against the Kievan Rus, which right now are the like main thing that both brothers want because whoever has the Kievan Rus on their side basically wins this. No, that's not because the Kievan Rus are the strongest nation. They're not. That right now would go to the blue team, who doesn't like either of the brothers, followed by the British Republic, who could not care less aside from the fate of these colonies. Then followed by probably I'd have to say Persia, who also really does not care, and then probably the Chinese, the Qing Republic, who's too far to even like they don't even have relations with the Red Team. So all of this eventually just goes back to the strongest nation that would intervene and could care somewhat, being the Kievan Rus. So as far as they're concerned, the Kievan Rus is the strongest nation. Yeah. So and then the second way is all of the Mediterranean Red Team that gets their food from the Strait of Gibraltar, in fear that they're not going to get their food, he can threaten them into supporting him, which would give him a bad rep. However, if he becomes king, he can solve that reputation problem with money, and this is the path he chooses. He does do the second option, and it goes exactly as he hoped. Most of the world hates him, however, not enough to intervene on the side of his brother, the younger brother, and most of the Mediterranean does now join him in a united front. Back over in Persia, the United Front is going even better as loyal troops are now arriving from within the Persian places, and they're cutting off huge chunks of the red team. And now, they actually capture another strategic point of interest, the Crimea, followed by a complete like kamikaze mission of boats, like multiple boats, into that the Bosphorus, which gives the green team, which they use to threaten the green team into basically allowing them to retreat, gather resources, as well as push troops through green team territory, which the green team is forced to agree to. From here, Rome is captured alongside most of Italy, as well as a landing made over here, which eventually cuts off a huge chunk of the red team from the rest of the red team, and then that chunk is wiped out, followed by this happening, leading to the complete collapse of the Italian. with this is what the world looks like now. And the brother actually offers a trade to the blue team. Since the younger brother has now pulled out of peace negotiations, he offers a trade to the blue team. He basically says that since this is a heritage site, I will make a special visa, basically the equivalent of a visa for people who are traveling to go specifically to the heritage site. They can apply for this, and they'll be allowed to visit only that part of the red team. In exchange, you one give me a bunch of resources, two leave this land alone, and the blue team agrees to this, leading to that land now becoming a part of the front. This united front eventually, most people see this as a good way to solve things in there, leading to him gathering even more support and pushing even further. This is probably the biggest. Now remember, this civil war, even if the brother wins, which he probably will at this point, who knows though? Even if the brother wins, I'm sorry to the to the rebel fans. This still doesn't count as a win for the rebels because both of them are assumed. I know he's the older brother's colored in as brown. However, both are still fighting for the fate of the red team and not for independence or for better autonomy or change of government. So I'm sorry, but no, the 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 rebels still haven't won anything. Meanwhile, now they start seeping through these little crevices and basically reach the Sinai, which is quite scary for these guys because now they've been reduced, man. They've been reduced. Now these colonies aren't actually involved in the civil war. Whoever takes the capital controls the colonies. So far, the colonies are forced to be on the side of the younger brother. However, some colonies are having trust issues because the younger brother is subjecting them to a lot of taxes to pay for his front, which leads to even more and more people thinking that because of him the colonies will rebel, and so they don't. He loses even more support. And now the age difference between these two is like 3 years, so it's not even that high. It's not even about age and supporting the older brother because he's older. It's just about who you think is a better leader now, and that seems to be collectively the older brother. Of course, there's a few resistances in the favor of the younger brother, like across all this conquered land, but that goes for both sides. Eventually, the place where all this started is the place where the red team sees his fate come down to. A siege is laid on the capital as land is destroyed more and more, and people now most younger brother supporters are either being prosecuted or running into the capital. Eventually, the capital is right here. So eventually, all land except for the capital has fallen, and in a huge parade, the older brother takes the capital, sealing the fate of the red team. The older brother gets leadership. Now, taking a look at this peace treaty, basically, yeah, no, the younger brother gets deported, absolutely deported. Well, no, his supporters are all either deported to a no man's land, Byzantine. There also some are sent to that place right there, Indonesia, Singapore stuff. The brother himself, he is meant to be hanged. However, he basically escapes with a small group of friends into Caspia, where he's deported into Stanistan, and eventually he takes a boat trip, kind of. No, he takes a long trip in, and eventually through many countries, he ends up there. So yeah, the red team isn't reaching the brother anytime soon. He's still alive though, so if the older brother dies, he has a chance. Well, he's mostly rejected by most of the world, but he has a chance. And then over here, of course, Morocco gets their part of the trade done, and they are now restored to semi-autonomy. They're actually a little bit bigger now. Um, that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, the Qataris, they get semi-autonomy as well. They're gonna get that. Yeah, remember though, the blue team now has a passport, special passport to go to that heritage site. Meanwhile, this occupation zone is eventually just completely incorporated, figuratively, and now the brother has to deal with the British doing that, and he's basically to the British, can I have that back? And the British are like, nuh-uh, it's security purposes, because we feel threatened, because a bunch of our rebel guys ran in there. And he's like, a bunch of our rebels ran into mainland Britain. Does that mean we can invade London? And they're like, nuh-uh. And he responds with, then why are you allowed to do this? And they basically threaten him with complete destruction of the 13 colonies, considering that there's no military left there, because they were all pulled for the Civil War by the younger brother. Yeah, this is why no one likes the younger brother, because you don't just remove troops from a border with a hostile neighbor. You don't do that, no matter the importance. The younger brother was really worried about the power. He wasn't worried about the colonies. Actually, the younger brother was against the colonies and wanted to just tax them into rebelling, forcefully make them rebel by taxing them so much, which is why he was mostly hated. So yeah, with this, the red team responds with sanctions, joined in by Kiev and Rus, Persia, the blue team, and the Aztecs. All these guys collectively sanction and no longer allow their ocean territories to be used by the British, who respond with their own sanctions. These guys include the British. That's it. I'm sorry, no one's going against the red team. The British do, however, now see the use in South America, or the use of South America, and do expand a little bit inside of South Africa. But this is going to be the last thing. Let's incorporate this region, and that's it. That's going to be the end of this video. So like and subscribe. This was a long one. Sorry about that. Like and subscribe. I'll see you later. If you choose to watch another video, which you should, go watch another video. Like and subscribe, and check out all the videos in the description. Fortnite videos. Check those out. Show them some support. They've not been doing well, but they've also kind of been doing well. You can look at it two ways. So yeah, goodbye.